What's up, DJ Dre Lord here. Welcome in. Today I want to talk about the 90s, right? And I want to know, like, why do people consider the 90s like the best decade, right? Now, obviously, there's different opinions and things like that. But you often hear the 90s referenced as like the best decade for this or the best decade for that, right? And so I was thinking about it the other day, and I think one of the reasons is the 90s was really the one decade where kind of everything was almost like at its peak. And I don't necessarily say at its best, but at peak form. So if you talk about like music, right? Every genre of music in the 90s was like at its peak. You look at 90s hip hop, right? Look at that. 90s R&B, pop music, right? Rock music, right? You look at country, all of this music was like we got some of the best out of the 90s. So music was like at its peak during that time, right? Then you look at things like fashion, right? 90s fashion is something that is still revered and respected today. As you notice, we still have like 90s themed parties and things like that. So the fashion itself, like the overalls and, all of these different boots and things like that, um, people, it connected to people and it's like iconic in a way. So fashion was at a really good place and a very unique place in the 90s. Um, Another thing, you could look at like sports, right? You look at, the Bulls won 6 championships in the 90s. You look at all of these other great historical sports things that happened also um, in the 90s as well, right? So, and I think I could go on to just about great things that happened in the 90s, but I think that's really the biggest reason. Um, it's like the one decade that like there's a general consensus that like it was great. If you think about it, that's like the one decade where everyone's like, oh man, yeah, the 90s were great, right? Um, and like I said, I think that's the reason. I think so many things were at its peak during the 90s that it's very hard to compare other decades to, because I think if you look at like the 70s and 80s, right, I feel like they were building, right, and building, and then the 90s were the culmination of what they built, right? And then like you look past that, the 2000s, right, and even the 2010s were a result of the greatness of the 90s. Um, so just kind of some food for thought, man. So what do y'all got? What do you guys think? Is the 90s the best decade? If so, why? If not, why not? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe for more. Peace.